Satan came to me this morning. He spoke without a warning. He tried to make me quit or compromise. But I said, listen, devil, with you I'm gonna level. I can't quit, my eyes on the prize. So I made my decision. I wanted a greater vision of that heavenly bridegroom in the sky. Satan, get behind me. One day you won't find me. I'll be gone with my eyes on the prize. The devil thought he was smart. He tried to get into my heart. But I said, devil, you ain't very wise. Come on in like a flood. I'm gonna drown you in Jesus' blood. I can't quit, my eyes on the prize. So I made my decision. I wanted a greater vision of that heavenly bridegroom in the sky. Satan, get behind me. One day you won't find me. I'll be gone with my eyes on the prize. Whoa, 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 I'll be gone. Yeah, 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 I'll be gone. Whoa, 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 I'll be gone with my eyes on the prize. Clicking my shiny red boots, trying to get back to you. This Emerald City's getting old, and traveling over the rainbow, somewhere only you and I know. I'm getting off this yellow brick road, headed for the streets of gold. Yeah, there's no place like home. Oh, I just wanna go home. Yeah, there's no place like home. I'm coming home. I'm sitting here wishing on a star, wondering where you are, wishing that these clouds were far behind me, melting all my troubles away. With you I wanna stay. Oh, why then, oh, why can't I? Why can't I fly? Yeah, there's no place like home. Oh, I just wanna go home. Yeah, there's no place like home. I'm coming home. I'm clicking my shiny red boots, trying to get back to you. This Emerald City's getting old. I'm coming home.
Thank you, everybody. Please take your seats. Get ready for some teaching. I do want to say hello to everybody that's in here in the chapel, that everybody that's out there online today, you're watching the Children of the Free Church Ministry. We gather here live every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. for the teaching of God's Word. My name is Charles Garcia. I'm the teacher and pastor here. Archives are available for you for free, 24/7 at childrenofthefree.com, as well as on YouTube. Make sure to press like, share, subscribe, and comment at the end of the service. Today's teaching is on the interaction and relationship between bureaucrats and their constituents. President Trump is trying to appoint persons, people, to places in his administration to get a job done and to deal with a problem, not bureaucrats who are in it for life to see what they can get. Dr. Scott coined another description and phrase for them, bureaucrats, which more aptly describes them than anything else. President Trump's appointees will soon be good to go against them. Not the ones you hear about now, but the ones that run departments and bureaus and agencies that don't want the status quo changed. They're ensconced like ticks. And woe be it for the common man or woman that goes up against them. They bring the full power of the government against you and multiple attorneys against you. Like the saying goes, you can't go against City Hall, or you can't fight City Hall. As a represented citizen, you should be able to. Now, there was once in Scripture a king who ruled like all ancient kings. Into whose presence, uncalled if you went, meant certain death. He had his bureaucrats too. There was one particular bureaucrat, which you'll find about tonight, that had reached a high position that was constantly being rewarded, praised, and receiving raises. This king of Persia ruled over the Jews in captivity that Nebuchadnezzar had turned over to him, if you remember the teaching in Daniel. There was a decree that all Jews were to pay obeisance to any Persian coming and going by. There was one Jew who refused to do this. and was a constant aggravation to the bureaucrat for not doing so. Go with me in the Old Testament to the book of Esther. Now I got the plot line a little bit out of sorts, but it'll come into place once we get started here. Give me a show of hands when you get there. Remember the subject matter. Let's start out chapter 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, who reigned from India even into Ethiopia, big area, over 170 and 20 provinces. The king called for a party, celebration to be had on the seventh day. When the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, this is in verse 10, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti, the queen, before to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look upon. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains before. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. Those that were around him, the bureaucrats that were around him in verse 15 said, "What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to law, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains?" And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, "Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king of Ahasuerus." Verse 17, "For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him." So now he commands her to be brought in. But she came not. Verse 19, "If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered." Can't change it. "That Vashti come no more before the king Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate to another that is better than she." Chapter 2 says, "After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, Let there be fair young virgins sought for the king. And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom." That's bureaucrats, right? Let the king appoint bureaucrats in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hegi the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them. They have to go through a process of purification before they can be before the king. Verse 4, and let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Verse 5, now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. Now they just said he's a Jew, and then they said he's a Benjamite. I've taught you in the Lost Tribes teaching that the two southern tribes were comprised of Judah and part of Benjamin. So here we have somebody who is that. Okay, so he was a Jew and he was a Benjamite who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, who Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took her for his own daughter. Getting this gathering of maidens or virgins, Esther was brought also to the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women, and the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, which such things as belonged to her and the 7 maidens, which were meet to be given her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids to the best place of the house of the women. So he gives her stuff. Get ready quick, get purified quick. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Now when every maid's turn was come to go into the king, Ahasuerus, after she had been 12 months, according to the manner of women, for so were the days of their purification accomplished, to wit, 6 months of oil of myrrh, and 6 months of sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women. It took them a year to get to see the king. Verse 15. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Haggai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed, and Esther obtained favor in the sight of all of them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house royal, in the 10th month, taking shortcuts here, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. In those days, verse 21, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate two of the king's chamberlains, two other bureaucrats, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth, and sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. They wanted to kill him for making Esther king over Vashti. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name, and when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree. I want to file that away because it will become very important later on. Chapter 3. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote bureaucrat Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants, and you know how bureaucrats get when you don't bow down to them. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath. He tried defying any bureaucrat, and they're going to be full of wrath. And he thought, how dare you? And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone. For they had showed him the people of Mordecai, wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. And he had a bureaucratic power to do that. Verse 8, Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, There's a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. He's ratting them out. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. Verse 10, the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jew enemy. Since we're talking about bureaucrats and constituents, we could say the constituent enemy. And the king said unto Haman, The silver is given unto thee, the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded. Verse 13, letters were sent by posts unto all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews. Verse 14, copy of the writing for commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people that they should be ready against that day. Verse 15, and the posts went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace, and the king and Haman sat down to drink. Verse 4, and Mordecai perceived all that was done. Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and a bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. In every province whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it to her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. That means he didn't accept it, not it didn't get to him. Then called Esther for Hatak, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. So Hatak went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. And he also gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them. To show it unto Esther, and declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. And Hatak came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. And Esther spake unto Hatak, gave him commandment unto Mordecai, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. Verse 13, then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall there enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place, but thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And here's the linchpin of this message that we carry as an ongoing promise. And who knoweth whether thou art come unto the kingdom for such a time as this? Now, just to remind you, we just learned anybody that goes in the presence of the king without being called is going to be killed. And Mordecai is saying, God will take care of his people in either case, but they'll get killed if they don't go in there. And then it goes on to say, who knoweth whether thou art come unto the kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. 3 is divine manifestation. Eat nor drink 3 days, day or night. I also and my maiden will fast likewise, and so will I go unto the king, which is not according to the law. And here's the other linchpin. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. Now, Esther's the king's favorite. Well, she's the queen. And she's the king's favorite. And she went in his presence, and the golden scepter was in the king's hand. So Esther came near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther, and what is thy request? That shall be given unto thee, unto half the kingdom. And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I've prepared for him. I've written in the margin here, bossy. And the reason for that is Dr. Scott used to tell a story about how when he was a young boy, one day he saw his grandfather walking around behind a cow with a bucket of feed, and the cow's name was Bossy. And he kept saying, Here, Bossy. And the cow would ignore him, keep walking, Here, Bossy. Here, Bossy. And then when Bossy came up to eat, he went a bit, he made a full circle and whacked that cow right on the head for its stubbornness. So she's here bossying them. She wants to have a party with just the king and Haman. She wants just them to come to the banquet that I prepared for him. Here, bossy. Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste. They may do as Esther has said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet and that Esther had prepared. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to half the kingdom shall be performed. Here, bossy. Because then answered Esther and said, My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. Then went Haman forth that day joyful, and with a glad heart. The bureaucrat thinks he's going to get to be with Esther and the king. Joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends, and Zeresh his wife, and Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him. What do they call it nowadays? Insider deals and all that. Insider deals, and how he had advanced him above the princes and the servants of the king. And Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared but myself. And tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting in the king's gate. Then said Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. A typical business of a bureaucrat overdoing things. Mordecai would have been just as dead at 7 feet as at 70. I know it says 50 cubits, but that's about 70 feet. So he's going to build a gallows 70 feet tall to hang him. And he's going to tell the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be built. Like I said, he'd be just as dead at 7 feet, but they built it 70 feet. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of the records of Chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigtha and Teresh, 2 of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the doors, who sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. You guys remember that? And the king said, what honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that minister unto him, there is nothing done for him. And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Tricking him. Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and this horse be delivered to the hand of the one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal, whom the king delighteth to honor, and to bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Then the king said to Haman, make haste. Hurry up, make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew. That sitteth at the king's gate, let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth. Verse 12. Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning, and having his head covered. And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends, everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh, his wife, unto him, If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. I still haven't had the banquet yet. Chapter 7. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen, and the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? It shall be performed even to the half of the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, and my people to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Verse 5, Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto the queen, Who is he, and where is he that durst presume his heart to do so? Verse 6, And Esther said, The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went unto the palace guard, and Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden unto the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, Will he force the queen also before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Harbona, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then said the king, Hang him thereon. Hang him thereon. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. On that day did King Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. I sure hope to see some of these bureaucrats go down like Haman did when President Trump takes over. And that's my message. It's offering time. For the offertory. Go to the rock.
Where can I go, see, when the storms of life are raging? Who can I turn to when the winds of sorrow blow? Is there no refuge in a time of tribulation? I go to the rock, I know he's able. I go to the rock. I go to the rock of my salvation. I go to the stone that the builders rejected. I run to that mountain, and that mountain stands by me. When this world is sinking sand, on Jesus the rock I stand. When I need shelter, when I need a friend, I go to the rock. I go to the rock of my salvation. I go to the stone that the builders rejected. I run to that mountain, and that mountain stands by me. When this world is sinking sand, on Jesus the rock I stand. When I need shelter, when I need a friend, I go to the rock. I need shelter, when I need a friend, I go to the rock.
Well, folks, the battle is just about to begin with liberal and progressive and unqualified bureaucrats in all areas of government. So become proactive to do this and support your president. Keep on walking in faith.
Well, I searched and I searched for a road that led to glory. I wondered if I'd ever find my way. I was so dismayed, for the road it seemed so lonely. But then I heard a voice within me say, you've got to keep on walking, keep right on walking, walking in the light of the Lord. You'll get to heaven someday, can only get in the faith way, walking in the light of the Lord. Well, I faved and I faved, and the Lord, he gave me mercy. I faved and he brightened up my way. I sat down to rest, for my feet had grown so weary. But then I heard a voice within me say, you've got to keep on walking, keep right on walking, walking in the light of the Lord. You'll get to heaven someday, can only get in the faith way, walking in the light of the Lord. You've got to keep on walking, keep right on walking, walking in the light of the Lord. You'll get to heaven someday, can only get in the faith way, walking in the light of the Lord. light of the Lord.